Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day, there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning. Good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. We're going to have a great conversation today about something that I know very little about. So I am so looking forward to this. I can't believe I don't know much about this, because I am a marketing person. But we're going to be talking about online advertising, specifically Google. But, this is going to be great for everyone to be listening to this conversation. So please join me in welcoming John Horn to our program today. Welcome, John. How are you?
Deb, I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me today.
Perfect. I love it. Well, I always like to know how it is that my guests got to where they are today. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. So let's go back a little over a decade, probably at this point. And to kind of start the story, I actually have to mention my brother and a business partner of his. So they were both in the marketing world. I was in the marketing world as well at that point, doing some various things. They were in the marketing world, and they said, hey, there's this not new thing, but definitely newer thing, Google ads that's going on. And we see this change from traditional media to digital media. We see so many businesses who are realizing, hey, I've got to connect with businesses or with customers online. And there were options to help them with that, but there's way more of a market, way more people who needed help than there were options at that point. And so they said, hey, let's start an agency where we're going to help people, steward their advertising budget and see how we can make Google ads work for them. So they started the agency StubGroup and brought me on as employee number one. And we basically figured things out, bootstrapped things, figured out how to run campaigns, make clients successful, get clients ourselves, and grow from there. And so I kind of grew up through the ranks there, took over the CEO role about, I think, 4-ish years ago.
Okay.
And still doing the same thing today.
Very cool. And as you were talking, I realized I was so excited about this conversation that I didn't even read your bio. So I'm going to step us back just a little bit to do that, because it's important that we get this information. So as we know, John is the CEO of StubGroup, which is a digital advertising agency. They are a premier Google partner. We're going to find out a little bit more about that. And they are ranked by Google in the top 1% of all Google partners worldwide for their performance and customer care. They've generated over $500 million with a B dollars in revenue for their clients across many different verticals, including eCommerce, B2B, B2C, local stores, and services. They've helped over 2,000 clients across 15,000 campaigns with their paid ads and suspension issues. And I knew nothing about that. So we're going to really ask about that. So John has taught digital advertising to over 100,000 students on online courses with the videos he produces through StubGroup's YouTube channel, and they have received millions of views. When he's not marketing, John loves spending time with his wife and 2 little boys exploring the Texas countryside he calls home. And I keep wanting to call you StubHub. I wonder how many times. I'm guessing I'm probably not the only person that wants to make that, right?
Like half the time.
Yeah. So now that we know that you really are an expert, and that Google, more importantly, thinks you are an expert, let's really delve into this. So my first question is, do you only focus on Google, or do you do all sorts of digital advertising?
Great question. Short answer is no. We do not just focus on Google.
Okay.
We talk, I'd say, more about Google than some of the other platforms.
I mean, they are the big dog.
They're the big dog, and a lot of businesses, they'll start on Google and kind of make things work there, and then say, okay, how do we expand?
Okay.
But yeah, no, we do a lot of Facebook advertising, Instagram advertising, Microsoft, Amazon, you name it. Kind of any of the pay-per-click based channels we leverage where it makes sense on behalf of our clients.
Right. Yeah. And of course the concepts are the same. And so that's the thing is, for folks who are listening, if you're thinking, well, I only do Facebook advertising or I only do LinkedIn or something, nah, it is all the same type of philosophy.
Very much so. It's about understanding who's my audience, how
Hmm.
do I connect with them at the right
Hmm.
time, with the right message,
Hmm.
with the right options for them
Hmm.
to come and provide value to me.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, the channel really doesn't matter. I mean, it matters in terms of for different businesses,
Hmm.
their audiences use different channels. So you've got
Hmm.
to understand how are they using them and go to
Hmm.
those channels. But at the end of the day, it's all about communicating who
Hmm.
you are and why you're a solution to your
Hmm.
potential customers' need.
Right. So, of course, the first obvious question for somebody is why? Why would they want to advertise on any of these platforms?
Yeah, well, if you are a business that is able to get all the business that you want organically,
Mhm.
that is fantastic. You go and do
Cool.
that,
Yeah.
and that is awesome.
Save your
Unfortunately,
money.
exactly. Unfortunately, for probably, 99% of
Hmm.
businesses out there, that's not how it works.
Right.
And so that's where advertising comes in. It's
Hmm.
about understanding, okay, who is my target audience
Hmm.
and where do they spend their time?
Hmm.
And how do I make them aware that I exist and I solve their
Hmm.
need or their want? And
Right.
that's really the same whether you are, an e-commerce company
Hmm.
selling clothes to people or
Hmm.
you're a SaaS company
Hmm.
selling to businesses or whatever. Ultimately, your customers have needs and wants,
Hmm.
and you got to figure out where are they and how do you communicate to them that you have that solution. And most people these days spend their
Hmm.
time on the internet,
Right.
either searching for things or, looking through things.
Hmm.
And so that has become, the place to reach the people
Hmm.
that you need to reach.
Right. And to me, it's one of these things that it makes sense. Like I said, I haven't done it too much just because, it hasn't made sense. Getting ready to though. So, that's kind of one of those things. But it should be just part of your marketing. And match the rest of your marketing. So some of the keys are, like you said, who is your target audience? And we hear so many business owners, and you probably have this happen all the time, and we talk about this a lot on the program. Who is your target market? And they look at you and they say, everybody.
Yep.
I don't, I've actually tried to think, is there a product or a service that potentially anybody could buy? I mean, there's things like water, coffee, but then you have your subsets of those, right? Because not
Mhm.
everybody likes Starbucks, not everybody likes, Folgers. Do they even sell Folgers? All those various things. And so it is about finding your niche. And
Mhm.
sometimes that's a pretty small little niche.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I like what Mark Cuban says about
Hmm.
this. I've heard him talking about, when someone comes on Shark Tank and
Hmm.
they start saying, "Oh, well, this is a $7 billion industry, and all we
Hmm.
need to do is get 1% or something." He's like, "No, you haven't figured out
Hmm.
what your niche is and
Right.
what your
Hmm.
unique selling proposition is."
Hmm.
And so, yeah, we'll have clients come on board all the time, and they'll say,
Hmm.
"Hey, we'll spend unlimited money. We want to go
Ooh.
out and get everybody." And we're like,
Hmm.
"Oh, that cool. Yeah, we'd love to do that for you, but
Yeah,
that's not
but
how it
no.
works."
Hmm.
Because
Right.
there's always that
Hmm.
water level where, hey, beyond that, it's not profitable,
Hmm.
to target that type of audience
Hmm.
or to run those types of ads. And so a lot of what we do with clients is helping them think through really their own
Hmm.
business and who they serve.
Right.
Where are they seeing
Hmm.
success right now in their business?
Hmm.
Because I'd say there's often two categories where businesses use advertising.
Hmm.
One is to, promote new things
Hmm.
that nobody knows about yet, and the only way they're going to
Hmm.
find out about that is by, paying for ads
Hmm.
to make people
Right.
aware. And then the other thing should be pouring fuel in the fire of
Hmm.
what's working well for them already.
Hmm.
So, let's say we have an e-commerce company that comes to us and they say, "Hey, these, we have a hundred
Hmm.
thousand products." We're going to say, "Well, what are the 10% that are selling the
Hmm.
best already from what you're doing right
Hmm.
now?" Cool. That's where you have, that's where
Hmm.
your lowest hanging fruit is.
Right.
Let's start by advertising those because
Hmm.
they know those work. We can pour fuel on that
Hmm.
fire through advertising. And then, we can expand from there and see if
Hmm.
we can get other things to work as
Hmm.
well. But yeah, a lot of advertising is about kind of honing down
Hmm.
your audience, your messaging, and how you reach them.
Right. And it's like they say in real estate, location, location, location. I think one of the best examples of perfect ad placement that I've ever heard is a billboard for bail bonds.
Mm,
And they, and according to the information I saw, it is right next to a jail. And
Hmm.
more importantly, it is visible from the window where somebody gets their phone call.
Mm.
You know, because they're not going to be able to go, they don't have their smartphone, they can't, they can't figure out who's going to bail them out, but they can see that billboard out that window. And if they had it on the other side of the building, if they had it online, they're not going to get anything. They
Hmm.
know exactly how to reach exactly who they want to reach, right? If it's by on the interstate, you're probably not needing bail money when you're driving down the road.
100%. That's a
Mhm.
fantastic example. And I'd say in many ways, what say Google search has
Mhm.
become kind of parallels that
Mhm.
with, again, you're getting in front of people right when they search for what they
Right.
need. So
Mhm.
when, the wife of somebody who's in jail, when they're searching
Mhm.
for bail bonds,
Mhm.
boom, that billboard placement
Right.
is the first thing that comes up
Mhm.
on Google when they
Mhm.
search for that.
Right.
Whereas, if you show a search ad for bail bonds when somebody's typing, hey, what's the newest car,
Right. No,
that's
probably
not
not
going to
gonna.
work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm. Well, it's like with any type of advertising, if you're not looking for it, you're not going to pay attention to it.
Yep.
And so then those, that advertiser in essence wasted their money with that placement. Now, we can't get it so specific in most cases. So you are going to have the furniture ads in the newspaper and all of those things. But I always laugh like when I see a television commercial and I'm thinking, I'm not their target market, so I'm not sure why I'm seeing this.
Yes.
But yeah, it is. It's been so fun and interesting to watch how things have fine tuned over the years. I actually saw something that yesterday was the anniversary of Netscape's founding, which of course
Oh,
doesn't
wow.
even exist any longer.
Yeah.
And how that really was one of the first big search engines, but yeah, Google went from being just, you kind of generically look for something to really be able to be very specific. So, the bail bonds example, you want to advertise for somebody in that zip code or, at least that location,
Mhm.
all of those various things. And that's what's so important when you're developing these ads. So tell us a little bit more about the process.
Yeah, so the process that we'll walk a client through when they come to us is we'll start out with a lot of questions.
Mhm.
Some of the questions we've already talked about,
Mhm.
and things like, yeah, okay, what geography are your customers
Mhm.
in? What sets you apart from your
Mhm.
competitors? Should we target people who are
Mhm.
searching for your competitors and see if we can win their business? Things
Mhm.
like that. And really try to understand as much as we can about their business. At
Mhm.
the end of the day, we're never going to know as much about their business as they do, obviously,
Mhm.
but we're trying to learn as much from them and then marry that with our understanding of the platforms and
Mhm.
advertising so we get the best of both worlds. And then we do our own research. We see, okay,
Okay.
what are their competitors doing
Mhm.
online? What are
Mhm.
they targeting? What are they saying? Just what does that landscape look like?
Mhm.
We look at what's it going to cost to go after different types of
Mhm.
searches, for example, if we're going to run search campaigns on
Mhm.
Google. And then we build out our campaigns. So we
Mhm.
pick, okay, we want to show up for these types of things. We want to show these ads, and we have lots of different
Mhm.
variants that Google can test and see which messaging is going to work best.
Mhm.
And then we say, okay, here's what we can afford to pay for
Mhm.
clicks, because as I'm sure you know, it's a pay-per-click model.
Right.
So
Yeah. Just
the way
seeing
Google
it
makes
doesn't
money,
cost you anything because
exactly,
you want people to click, that you want them to have to go through. So yeah, it should cost.
exactly, and that also incentivizes Google to show the most relevant ads possible
Mhm.
because they want people to click on those ads because
Mhm.
that's how they make money. And
Mhm.
so, if they have a choice between showing a random Geico ad versus, bail bonds ad for
Mhm.
someone who's searching for bail bonds, they're
Mhm.
going to go with the bail bond because
Right.
they're going to make more money because a higher
Mhm.
click-through rate.
Mhm.
And so the more compelling you can make your ad copy
Mhm.
too, the
Mhm.
more times you can show up, and actually the cheaper your traffic can be
Right.
because it's all an auction and
Mhm.
Google's looking at a ton of different factors, but
Mhm.
they're saying, hey, if this ad over here has a click-through rate that's twice of this ad,
Mhm.
then this other ad that's worse, they're going to have to bid a lot more to get that click in order for
Right.
us to be willing to show those ads at the
Hmm.
same time
Hmm.
because we want the click in order to make the
Right.
money.
Hmm.
And so a lot of what we do is again figuring out, okay, compelling ad copy
Hmm.
and relevant ad copy.
Hmm.
So we may have lots of different lists of keywords we're targeting and
Hmm.
different ad copy for each list, trying to be as,
Hmm.
hyper relevant and tailored as
Hmm.
possible to what people are searching for.
Right.
And then we launch.
Hmm.
But launching is really just the start, not the
Hmm.
finish, because there are constantly things changing in
Hmm.
the industry. You've got competitors moving in and out.
Hmm.
You've got Google making changes. You've got, search
Hmm.
behavior changing, and then you've got what you're learning from the campaigns.
Hmm.
So then a lot of what we're doing ongoing is
Hmm.
learning, analyzing the data,
Hmm.
saying, you know what, this group of keywords is not profitable for us because
Hmm.
it's too expensive. It's not converting at a high enough rate. Let's either stop going after it, let's
Hmm.
bid less. Whereas over here, hey, this is working.
Hmm.
And a lot of that also, like understanding what is working and what's not
Hmm.
working, comes down to what we call conversion tracking.
Hmm.
So we spend a lot of time learning as much as possible
Hmm.
about what happens after people click those
Hmm.
ads. So if you click an ad, get to a website, if you call a number on there, we can track that and track that
Hmm.
back to the campaign and say,
Right.
hey, here's the calls that came. If
Hmm.
they fill out a form, if they place an order
Hmm.
online, those different actions that our clients want
Hmm.
them to take, we track those, track them
Hmm.
back to the campaigns, and that's how we get better
Hmm.
because we can say this is working,
Right.
this is not, cut,
Hmm.
add, double down, etc.,
Hmm.
and keep improving over time.
Right. Yeah, because you don't want to be wasting money. I mean, that's ultimately what it comes down to. So it's not wasting money and it's making money,
Yes.
because if they click and they don't buy, call, visit, whatever it is that you're wanting them to do, then that was still potentially a waste of money. Now, it could be that they're shopping around and they're waiting, but you really want them to actually take that action. And I think so many people forget that call to action.
Yes.
It's like, oh, hey, we've got this bright, shiny thing, but then we forget to tell you to buy it.
All the time. Yeah, that's probably the most common feedback that we'll give to clients about their websites and landing pages is, hey, we need to actually tell people what to do because
Hmm.
people, there's a lot of things I say about people, but at the end of the day, we need to be told what to do
Hmm.
often. Like
Well, and
we're
we
busy,
need
we're
to.
moving around.
It's the KISS principle, right?
Yes.
If I go to somebody's website and I have to click more than once or twice to do what I want to do, I'm like, nope, sorry, I'll go to the next one.
Yes.
And so yeah, if I click, especially if I click, through an ad or just a regular search, if I don't find what it is almost right away, then I jump off.
And that I think is where there's a lot of value that can come from an agency like
Hmm.
StubGroup or a
Hmm.
freelancer or just anybody who's third party, because a
Hmm.
lot of businesses, they're so caught up in what they do, what they've
Hmm.
got on their website, they don't realize
Right.
how it looks
Hmm.
to a random person. And
Hmm.
we're able to say, hey, did you realize, you're not actually saying what you do on here? Like you're
Hmm.
using terminology that makes
Right.
sense to
Hmm.
you, but
Hmm.
not to the person looking for
Hmm.
what you do. And
Hmm.
so we can really help, not even just on the advertising side,
Hmm.
but on the website side, change
Hmm.
even small things. Sometimes
Hmm.
changing small things can have a massive
Hmm.
impact on conversion rate and getting people to
Hmm.
take that action.
Right. Yeah, you're right. It can be simple things, like it's been a while since I've seen this, but I believe one of the most popular car colors is blue. People
Mm,
like blue cars. So if you add, hey, come buy our blue RAV4, that might increase the number.
mhm,
And
yeah.
but yeah, so it all comes down to keywords. And of course, we've had keywords forever. I remember way back when we were, before WordPress, and you actually had to get, down and dirty with your programming and
Mhm,
do HTML. And so you would put keywords in. And it
mhm,
was always very entertaining when I was working with clients to pick their keywords, because of course, they didn't always know what their keywords were. So that was, the first thing. But then they always wanted to do things, and it worked for a while until Google got sophisticated enough to go, that's cheating. You'd put your competitor in there.
mm,
And so maybe if
yeah.
they search for Walmart, you might come up in the search, things like that.
Mhm,
But now it penalizes you if you use words like that, because that is
yeah.
cheating. You shouldn't be able to type in Mercedes and have the Ford people show up, right? um,
Mhm,
but but there are, I also remember, and I don't know if they, if you still do this, we would deliberately put in misspellings.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
especially if you had a name that was fairly unique. Like my full name is Deborah, Deborah. Well, a lot of people
Mhm.
do Debra. So I might put that in as a keyword because if people misspelled it, they would still find me.
Yes, I remember those days. I remember the days of, thousands of misspellings of
Yeah.
keywords,
And even just, typos, right? They've
typos,
reversed these
100%.
keys and mhm.
Largely, Google, they've gotten a lot smarter
Mhm.
about kind of understanding those things,
Right.
and they've changed over time how
Mhm.
keywords work, which
Mhm.
is both good and bad. So the
Mhm.
good is that when you target a keyword,
Mhm.
let's say you have a tree service that
Mhm.
you're advertising, say,
Mhm.
local arborist. Let's say
Mhm.
that's your keyword that you
Mhm.
target. Back in the day, you could have what they call an exact match keyword, where
Mhm.
only someone typing local arborist in Google would match that.
Right.
That's not really a thing anymore because Google gives
Mhm.
themselves a lot more lenience. And
Mhm.
so you might trigger things like tree service near me
Mhm.
or tree service or local arborist or,
Mhm.
lots of different variants, which is good because it means you don't have to create those crazy long
Mhm.
lists of keywords and
I
figure out
know
every
those
iteration.
used to be wackadoodle. Mhm.
Exactly. The con is that Google's far from perfect
Mhm.
at doing that matching,
Mhm.
and they'll often match irrelevant things
Mhm.
to it. A good example would be, back in the day we had, actually, we'll still have a client who is a tree service,
Mhm.
but people searching for Dollar Tree kept triggering
Ah,
alerts
okay. Yep, it saw
because
tree,
tree,
right?
exactly, but
Mhm.
obviously completely different. And
Mhm.
so that's where you can't just trust Google system and
Mhm.
automation. You
Mhm.
really need somebody, whether it's yourself or an
Mhm.
agency, really monitoring and seeing not just
Mhm.
what keywords am I targeting,
Mhm.
but what real searches are triggering those
Mhm.
keywords, and then excluding ones
Mhm.
that are irrelevant so that you
Mm.
don't waste money on
Okay. So
continued
you
clicks
could
like that.
exclude Dollar Tree.
Exactly. Yep. So you can tell Google, hey, if
Mhm.
someone types Dollar Tree in, I never want them to show my ad.
Mhm.
And you just tell them that, and cool, you've
Mhm.
saved, however much money you're
Mhm.
going to spend on that.
Mhm.
And then there's always new ways that
Mhm.
people search. Like
Mhm.
it's no matter how much time we spend in those search
Mhm.
term reports, there's always variance. And
Mhm.
so it's an ongoing
Mhm.
process of whack-a-mole
Mhm.
sometimes, and
It is.
making
Yeah.
sure you're
Up there. Up.
you're saving
Up.
that spend.
Mhm. Mhm.
Exactly.
So, one of the next questions I'm sure you get is either A, I can't afford it, so they don't even try,
Mhm.
or, isn't that really expensive? So, because, like when we see ads, you
Mhm.
see big name ads where people, they have, $1 million advertising budgets.
Mhm.
Does it have to be expensive?
So it does not have to be,
Mhm.
but it often is. And
Right,
so
because you haven't
yeah,
done the right steps.
yeah, definitely. If you haven't done the right steps, then
Hmm.
it's incredibly expensive because you're
Hmm.
wasting money.
Hmm.
Sometimes even if you've got a perfect campaign,
Hmm.
it's still quote unquote expensive because
Right.
you've got competitors who are doing the
Hmm.
same thing and are willing to pay for that
Hmm.
money. So at the end of the day, it all depends on your numbers.
Hmm.
So a lot of businesses, they'll come to us and be like, okay, what should our target return on ad
Hmm.
spend be? Or what's a good cost per click?
Hmm.
And I always turn that conversation around to them to say, let's talk about your margins. Let's talk
Hmm.
about how much profit are you making? What
Right.
can you afford to acquire a new customer?
Hmm.
And two, is there a lifetime value to that customer?
Hmm.
Maybe it's worth it to you to break even on getting that first
Hmm.
order because they're going to be a customer for two
Right.
years.
Hmm.
And so really you've got to dig into those numbers
Hmm.
and understand what can you
Hmm.
profitably pay for
Hmm.
customers? And then we see, can we
Hmm.
achieve that number? And sometimes it's not possible
Hmm.
because, some businesses aren't run super well,
Hmm.
frankly. And so the numbers they have to meet are
Hmm.
different than their competitors
Right.
because their competitors are more efficient or
Hmm.
whatever. And so it just doesn't work for them.
Hmm.
And then sometimes it does work and it's
Hmm.
awesome.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, it's not really about the size of the budget. I mean, we work with
Hmm.
clients who are spending millions of dollars and we work with clients who are spending hundreds of dollars.
Hmm.
It really depends on what's your target
Hmm.
area? What does the competition look
Hmm.
like? And we have a client, actually just made a video about them a few weeks ago. They have whatever, I think $1,000 budget. They're in a
Hmm.
local area, but they're killing it
Hmm.
because we're able to get enough volume of leads at that
Hmm.
budget. It's competitive. It's competitive, but not too competitive to where
Hmm.
they can't get good results
Hmm.
for that budget. And so they get,
Hmm.
a great ROI on
Right.
that budget. So it's
Hmm.
it's always a nuanced answer when when someone comes to us
Hmm.
with that type of a question.
Right. And Google my impression is it is more sophisticated than some of the other online platforms. I've done Facebook advertising, and you don't get to do too much with it. You can do your area, you can do
Mhm.
age, sex, some things like that. But like the keywords are the keywords that they have, and
Yep.
so if your keyword isn't their keyword, well, then you're kind of stuck. And let's be honest, they don't have an awful lot of keywords.
Yeah.
I
True.
do advertising for assisted living, and
Mm,
that's
yeah.
not in their keywords. You would think it
Mhm.
would be. That's a pretty big market. And so like when we're running, we typically will run ads for employment.
Mhm.
I can't say, somebody who wants to, I'm really wanting somebody who wants to work with those in assisted living. It just doesn't give me that option.
Yeah.
And that is the nice thing about Google is you can get pretty fine with what you're doing.
Yes, the beauty of Google, because it's search, is you could get
Mhm,
so specific, so fine, delineate where, hey, there's
mhm,
maybe only 100 people search for this per
mhm,
month, but if one of those could be $1 million deal because it's a
mhm,
this massive type of
mhm,
thing, it could still be incredibly valuable to you.
mhm,
Whereas on Facebook, it's really hard to reach those 100 people
mhm,
because, like you said, Facebook doesn't have an audience for just those
mhm,
100 people that are looking for, fill in the
mhm,
blank. However, Facebook is awesome for when people aren't searching for something. Because
mhm.
again, with Google, you can only run a search campaign if someone
Right.
searches for it. And
Yeah,
so with Facebook, you
which
can
is
go out.
frustrating sometimes on
Yes.
Facebook, right? I'm like, I'm not looking for that in there. It pops up the ad.
Yes, exactly.
Mhm,
Yep. So it's really definitely two different types of
mhm,
marketing that are very related,
mhm,
but that kind of are different stages in the
mhm,
funnel is how we like to
mhm,
say. Usually search is kind of the bottom of the funnel.
mhm,
We know what they're looking for.
mhm,
Let's tell them we're here.
mhm,
And then with Facebook or Instagram or other, paid social,
mhm,
it's about finding the right type of person,
mhm,
trying to find the right person, and then saying, "Hey, here's what we are, here's what we have."
mhm,
And so sometimes
mhm,
both platforms are great for many
mhm,
businesses. Sometimes only one platform makes sense based upon their niche.
mhm,
But we always try to think big picture when we
mhm,
work with clients and say, okay, where can we most effectively
mhm,
use your money?
mhm.
And then let's do that and get you the best
Right.
bang for your buck. And then
Mhm,
if there's opportunity, we
mhm.
can always scale from there.
Right. And one of the things that people also need to consider is can they fulfill what they're doing?
Mm,
I remember one time I had somebody who we were working with, and they were an author. And their ultimate goal was that this was long enough ago when Oprah still had her television show, and they wanted to be
mm,
on Oprah. Now I said, okay, we need to build up to that, right? This is not, we're
mhm.
skipping ahead. But I said, here's the more important thing. Can you fulfill 30, 40, 50,000 orders that come in because Oprah said, hey, buy this book?
Yeah.
And they went, uh and I ran a print campaign one time, direct mail piece for a local hair salon. We had a ton of fun with it. We actually won a lot of awards with it because they were really edgy, but
Mhm.
it was they were that was the type of salon they were. And so, but I told him, I said, we need to be very careful because if you say, 50% off a haircut, you're going to get a whole lot of people.
Yeah.
And the second you have people that call in and are told, we're sorry, we can't do that, then that word gets around really fast. Don't bother, don't go there. And so, I said, okay, we're not going to do 50%, we're going to do 10. And we're going to make it a much smaller area we're sending to,
Mm,
because they wanted to buy this huge. Long enough ago you bought the distribution list, right? And then they wanted to
mhm.
buy this, and I'm like, no, we need to get this down. Now if you get more people working for you and things like, then yes, that's different.
Yeah.
But yeah, can you fulfill what you're doing? If it's a local restaurant, and can are you going to have to turn people away from making reservations? I mean, all of those various things. And people are, of course, the immediate thing that they're thinking about is, I just need more. Give me more.
Right.
I need more clients. I need more. And it's like, no, you need to be able to serve them.
Right. Yes, and if you can't, like you said, if you can't serve them, that word gets around really quickly. Nowadays, that usually means negative reviews, and
Right.
so you start seeing
Mm-hmm,
people like, "Oh, they wouldn't help me, they couldn't
mm-hmm,
help me," and
mm-hmm,
then everyone else
mm-hmm,
who's seeing your advertising
mm-hmm.
or whatever else is starting to
Right.
see that, and so
Mm-hmm,
you start to see things
mm-hmm,
drop off. And then often we'll see clients be like,
Mhm.
well, let's do more in advertising.
Mhm.
Things are dropping off. We got to do more in
Yeah.
advertising. Well,
It's like,
no, it's your
no.
reputation we got to fix.
Mhm. Right,
Yep.
right. Yeah. And that especially is true on, say, Facebook, because you see the ad and then people can comment. And so they're going
Yep.
to comment, this is good, this is bad. And I always find it so interesting that, we won't believe what the ad says, but we'll believe a total stranger who we have absolutely no idea. We'll believe them.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's just the way it's always been,
Yes.
because of the little thing called word of mouth, right? We don't care if we really know them, but if we know it's a real person, we're going to believe them over the people that paid to put the ad there.
Exactly. 100%. Yeah. And sometimes that's also why you see I think the growth in what they call UGC, or user
Mm-hmm.
generated content, where
Mm-hmm.
people use the words of their customers
Mm-hmm.
and try to promote that and advertise
Right.
that. And there's
Mm-hmm.
still, people when they see it's
Mm-hmm.
advertised in an advertisement, there's still obviously
Mm-hmm.
some questioning of that, but
Mm-hmm.
still we see that type of ad work really well because
Mm-hmm.
it's, hey, here's me, here's the
Mm-hmm.
the cream I just put on my face, or fill in the blank.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, people
Mm-hmm.
people like believing what other people say
Mm-hmm.
about products.
Right. So, it's along those same lines. How do we really get that compelling content? Image, words, whatever. How do we really make it so that when they see, the list of 10, depends on the size of your screen, right? All those various things, to go, "Ooh, I'm going to click there." So how do we
Mhm.
come up with that?
A lot of it comes down to understanding the pain points that you're
Okay.
solving for the
Mm-hmm.
people who are searching.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's often a ton of different features that
Mm-hmm.
you can say about your product or service or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But if you understand, look, this is everyone's incredibly price conscious. All
Mm-hmm.
right, then we need to emphasize here's our price and here's how
Mm-hmm.
competitive we are. Or, hey, maybe people care about speed. Our
Mm-hmm.
competitors have 2 week wait times.
Mm-hmm.
We have same day service, and that's our differentiator. Awesome. Our ad should say same day service.
Mm-hmm.
And you just kind of go down through that and
Mm-hmm.
say, okay, what do people really care about? And then you test it as well,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes businesses, they may think that their
Mm-hmm.
customers have certain pain points or care about certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is that's not
Mm-hmm.
actually what's most on their mind. And so you want to test those different
Mm-hmm.
pieces of content, those different messages, headlines, whatever it may be,
Mm-hmm.
and then let the data at the end of the day
Mm-hmm.
dictate and say, okay, here's our click-through rate, here's our
Mm-hmm.
conversion rate. This is what people are
Mm-hmm.
responding to. This is our winner. Now let's test something else
Mm-hmm.
and continue that process over
Right.
time.
Right. And these concepts are not new. I mean,
No.
way back when I was in school, we talked about A/B testing. And that's exactly what you're saying. This ad says this. This ad has a picture. Which did better?
Mhm.
And you can get really, really fine-tuned with this, which you should be doing, right? Is there a time of day that's better? All those various things, because again, you want it to make you money as opposed to costing you money.
Absolutely. And that's one of the powers of automation too that Google and other platforms have brought in,
Mm-hmm.
because there's things that, no human at scale can really effectively
Mm-hmm.
test
Mm-hmm.
um, everything at once.
Mm-hmm.
But Google can learn from things, and they can learn even from
Mm-hmm.
what individual users, what
Mm-hmm.
types of ads they click on. So
Mm-hmm.
often we'll give, a number of different options to
Mm-hmm.
Google. And when they're displaying different combinations of that, they also know when I search for something,
Mm-hmm.
hey, maybe I often click on ads that have price, but when you
Mm-hmm.
search on something, maybe you click on ads that
Right.
have, service or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe on average the ad with
Mm-hmm.
price, would do worse than
Mm-hmm.
the ad with service. But when John searches for that,
Mm-hmm.
maybe the ad with price would generally do
Mm-hmm.
better. And so Google's able to learn those things
Mm-hmm.
and also, show
Mm-hmm.
hopefully the right combination to the right
Mm-hmm.
person at the right time. We're
Right.
definitely, it's far from a perfect science, but it has advanced so much
Mm-hmm.
beyond the manual
Mm-hmm.
days of, okay, we're just going to run these two
Mm-hmm.
things and run it for X amount of
Mm-hmm.
time and then move on.
Right. Right. And people don't stop to consider time of day as one of the
Yeah.
things. I was talking about, television ads. It always baffles me when I'm watching something after, say, 10 p.m. and
Mm.
it is an ad that is clearly, now I don't know if this is just saying what I'm watching, but where it is an ad that is clearly for younger, as in like children who should be in
Mm.
bed before 10 p.m. You see
Yeah.
those a lot, like at Christmas, right?
Yeah.
Where they're advertising toys, all these various things, because they want you to
Mhm.
go, mommy, 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 buy this, buy this, buy this. But yeah, running an ad. Now, of course, what's happened is that's probably a cheaper rate.
Right.
And so, they were able to say, when they were talking to whoever, hey, we'll give you twice as much for the same, all those things. But again,
Mhm.
if you're running your ad for children's toys after 10 p.m., if you're really
It'd
trying to
be a
reach
really
the
good rate.
kids, yeah, now if it's a children's toy and you're trying to reach the adult with it,
Mhm.
so you're talking about the educational benefits, or this will keep your kid amused for hours so they leave you alone, then that is very different. You might want to run those ads after 10.
Yes. Yeah. The time of day and all those
Mhm.
factors. Device also is a big one
Mhm.
these days. So if someone's on
Right.
their phone versus being on their computer,
Mhm.
you'll often see different
Mhm.
behavior and different,
Mhm.
conversion rates and things
Mhm.
because if you're on your phone, you're more likely
Mhm.
to be out and mobile and looking
Mhm.
something up quick. If you're on your computer, you're
Mhm.
probably more likely to be further down that
Mhm.
funnel of making a decision because you're
Right.
sitting down doing
Mhm.
something potentially. And
Mhm.
so all those
Mhm.
factors, yeah, play
Mhm.
into again that core principle
Mhm.
of the right person, the right
Mhm.
time, the right message.
Right. And again, what is it? I mean, if you're at a restaurant, a hotel, a movie theater, then you very well may want to target more the people who are on mobile, because those are the people who are out driving around going, well, where are we going to eat now?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and especially if you're trying to, get them on the phone with you.
Mm-hmm.
You can run with Google, you can run these things called call only campaigns, where
Mm.
literally instead of taking someone to a website, the
Mm-hmm.
option from the phone is to initiate a phone call.
Okay, so
And in
call and
some
make your
industries,
reservation. Mm-hmm.
exactly, that can work really well because
Mm-hmm.
that's what you want. You're not
Mm-hmm.
distracting them by going to a
Mm-hmm.
website that maybe loads slowly
Mm-hmm.
or has other stuff, or they need
Mm-hmm.
to move on. It's like, nope,
Mm-hmm.
call us right now. We'll get you
Mm-hmm.
booked.
Right. And it needs to be very clear and visible. I was talking to somebody the other day, and their call us now was
Hmm.
at the very end.
Mm. Yeah.
And we all have the attention span of gnats. We're not going to scroll down that far.
Yes.
And it was multiple scroll. It wasn't, hey, flip it a little bit. It was way down at the bottom.
Hmm.
And because they were like, nobody's calling. Well, that's because they don't see the button. Put the button at the top and make it clear. I think they had contact us,
Hmm.
and it was no. And if you clicked it, it called. And we said, so why
Hmm.
doesn't it say call us? Because
Yeah.
contact us to me would signify I'm going to fill out a form,
Yes.
and somebody's going to, reach back when they get the form. And they went, oh, but again, that's exactly what you were saying. What are the people what is that action you want them to take? What do they call it?
Yes. One of the things that we enjoy doing for clients often is using tools like Microsoft Clarity, for example,
Okay.
to watch how people are navigating on those websites.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll actually take screen recordings as
Mm-hmm.
people are navigating through, and you can see those
Mm-hmm.
things. And sometimes it's so mind-opening
Mm-hmm.
where you have this certain thought about this page,
Mm-hmm.
and then you see how people are using it. You're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah, that does look like a button, and people are
Mm-hmm.
clicking on it, and it's
And
not a
it's not a
button, and they're getting
button.
confused
Mm-hmm.
or they're typing this
Mm-hmm.
in and nothing's happening. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
we've got a problem. And so yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there's so many things you can learn
Mm-hmm.
from that. And I think that's again one of those I don't know if a misconception is the right way to put it, but something that I see a lot of businesses think when they start
Mm-hmm.
advertising is that it's all about the ads.
Mm-hmm.
And the ads are very important,
Right.
but they're only one step in
It's
the
the first
process.
step.
It's the
Mm-hmm.
first step.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time somebody's going to spend with you is actually going
Mm-hmm.
to be on your website
Mm-hmm.
after they click that ad.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've got to reinforce that
Mm-hmm.
ad. Again, you've got to,
Mm-hmm.
say call us, not
Mm-hmm.
contact us. You've got to make sure that your actual
Mm-hmm.
experience on your
Mm-hmm.
website is essentially
Mm-hmm.
an ad because
Right.
that's what it is
Mm-hmm.
operating as to
Mm-hmm.
get people to take the action you want them to take.
Right. Yeah. How many times do we go to a Google ad, and we've typed in a specific product? So, we want blue teddy bears.
Yeah.
And we click on the ad that talks about blue teddy bears, and we go to the generic part of their website.
Gifts for
And,
toddlers.
and yeah, and then I have to search through to find blue teddy bears. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no. I go back, I hit that little back button and I go to the
Yep.
next one that talked about blue teddy bears. And so that's where landing pages, and folks, landing pages are easy to create. You can have a bazillion of them. And again, you can A/B test those. That's and this is where it does get complicated. But your blue bear might have a picture of the blue bear, or a text of blue, whatever it is, or maybe it's a drink, right? Some weird thing.
Yep.
But yeah, don't make people work for it, because we don't.
No, I like to say people are lazy. You got to
Mhm,
put things right in
mhm.
front of them
Right.
to get them to do what you want them
Yeah,
to do.
you need to have like this little hand that comes out and takes their money, right? And so, but it is almost that simple. You need to make it so that it is as simple as possible. If I have to, like I said, if I have to click multiple times, I'm probably not going to do it. But yeah, it's just, how can we how can we get their money the fastest and the easiest, or get them to call us or do whatever it is that you're wanting.
100%. And then two, what does that follow through look like? Because that's
Hmm.
another area where a lot of
Hmm.
businesses, they'll maybe even do a good job
Hmm.
of collecting people calling in, collecting
Hmm.
email addresses, whatever. But then there's no follow through. There's
Right.
no, hey, I got a call 5 minutes ago. Let me call
Hmm.
this person right back and help
Hmm.
them right now. It's like, oh
Hmm.
yeah, I'll get to that tomorrow.
Hmm.
And then you lose that business because people
Right.
are moving quickly. They
Hmm.
want things to
Because
happen.
the next person contacted him right away.
Exactly.
Hmm.
100%.
So, of course, the big thing that we're now hearing so much about is AI.
Yes.
And it is evolved very rapidly into where people are using it to search, which
Hmm.
that just I use it to work on my blog posts. I use it to help write marketing paragraphs, all those things. It never really occurred to me to go in there and say, hey, tell me about the greatest places to go visit when I'm on vacation in San Diego. How does that start playing into stuff that AI is now a search tool?
That is the $64 billion question right now.
And you're going to
That,
solve it, so you're going to make the $64
all
billion.
right. Excellent. Yeah, that is so we definitely see people starting to start their
Hmm.
search journey in things like
Hmm.
ChatGPT or Gemini, other
Hmm.
AI tools as opposed to Google search.
Hmm.
And the massive question is how many people are going to do that?
Hmm.
And are they getting the information? Are they going to get
Hmm.
enough of the information, enough of the
Hmm.
credibility that they expect to get out
Hmm.
of those tools to allow them to continue starting their
Hmm.
journey there as opposed to where they used to, which is
Hmm.
Google search. And Google is highly incentivized to figure this out
Right.
because the majority of their revenue as a
Hmm.
business comes from advertising, with
Hmm.
search playing a massive
Hmm.
role in that. And so they're experimenting right now with what I think they call SGE, search generative experience, I
Right. So
think.
they're building AI in.
They're building AI in and testing and figuring out, okay, what does it
Hmm.
look like when we have it? And ultimately, how do we monetize it? Right
Hmm.
now, it's not clear how they're going to
Hmm.
monetize it. But if I were a betting man, I would bet they're going to figure it out
Hmm.
because they have to. That's what their business model
Hmm.
is. So I think there's a lot of changes that are going to take
Hmm.
place. But I also think that I don't know. Part of me thinks it's going to be slower than we expect because it takes a long time to change people's habits.
Hmm.
And we have the habit of Google's our go-to.
Hmm.
And they are incredibly convenient
Hmm.
and easy. They're integrated with everything. You've
Hmm.
got Google Maps, you've got YouTube, Gmail, fill in the blank.
Hmm.
And so we just go and do a search. And so I think for most people, it's
Hmm.
going to take a while for them to change that
Hmm.
habit. You've got the early adopters who
Hmm.
are always going to try the new things and figure
Hmm.
things out, and then the rest of people
Hmm.
who slowly over time
Hmm.
will join. And I think what will probably happen is by the time most people make that change, Google or whoever else will have figured out a way
Hmm.
to again monetize
Right.
that AI driven
Hmm.
search experience in a way that still helps them connect
Hmm.
advertisers and businesses with
Hmm.
consumers, but maybe in a different way
Hmm.
than we see right now.
Right. Yeah. And for the people who are getting all panicky about this, the number of people who are actually using AI is small. And it was funny. I told somebody the other day that I had used AI to write something, and I was talking to a marketing person,
Yeah.
and she said, "Oh my God, I can't believe you did that." I mean, it had never occurred to her, but it is a pretty small amount of people who are actually using chat gpt or any of the other things just using them in general. I mean, if you ask somebody how many, if you're in a big room and you say, how many of you use Chat GPT on a regular basis, obviously it's going to depend. But my assumption is, at least for right now, there's not a lot of hands that are going to go up. There's the ones that are going to say, well, yeah, I use it every once in a while, or I've signed up for a free account, all of those. But yeah, it is still a pretty small bunch. Now, do we need to plan for it? Yes. It is not going away. Anybody who thinks it's going to go away, or worse, that we can regulate it, that's not going to happen.
No.
And I can see why people are concerned about it. I'm here in Georgia, and we obviously just had a lot of discussion earlier last year about screenwriters and and all of those, and I mean, the fact that you can generate say an ad that looks exactly like a person, and it's and of course, if it's a celebrity, that's even better, because they've got so much content that they can be drawing from. I mean, these computers are pretty powerful. Are they going to take over our world? Yeah, probably not in our lifetimes. But yeah, it is something that people need to realize is happening.
Yeah, as with, so many revolutions, I think revolution is probably not too strong of a word to use because of the potential power with AI. But
Right.
with, as in the Industrial Revolution, fill in the blank, it's tools. Tools can be used for good and for bad. They will be used for both, but it's not that they are replacing humans. It's that they are giving us the ability to do more than we do on our
Right.
own. And you see that right now, I think, even with power users of ChatGPT in the coding space, for example. It's not replacing coders per se. It is making coders way more productive, exponentially more productive.
Right.
It's taking junior coders and making them, able to put out senior coding level output, and so forth and so on. And over time, that will certainly impact industries. You will have industries where, hey, there's less job openings because you need fewer people, because each person's output is greater. And then you have whole new industries appearing that didn't exist before because of
Right.
this. And we've seen this, time and time and again. And I think we'll continue to see this with
Right.
as AI develops.
Well, and like you said, we always have. When Henry Ford started doing things in his factories, people were all up in arms because, well, I was the person who put that bolt on every single time. Well, okay, now you can still do it, but you're the person supervising it.
Right.
And you're doing 100 as opposed to 2, and all of those things. And I use it when I'm writing to simplify the process, but part of it is to actually get it done. Right. Like I use it with blog posts, where
Yeah.
I will sit and I will either procrastinate and find 900 other things that I can be doing, or I'll stare at that blank piece of paper and forever until, I'm like, whatever. But I can go into Chat GPT and say, write a blog post about, and it goes boogity, boogity, boogity.
Yep.
But then I fine tune it,
Yes.
and make it something that I would actually say. There are times where I have looked at it and gone, I don't even know what that word means. So it's not a word that I would use.
Right.
And so then you go in but it was something that would have taken me several hours to do, and now maybe it's 45 minutes or less.
Yes.
And then that of course frees me up to do whatever I want with that other time.
We do a lot of that in Google Ad Space as well, where it's, like you said, it's so great for ideas. You can say, hey, give me, 10 headline ideas for this.
Right.
And they're not all going to be perfect. I'm not going to use all of them,
Mhm.
but it gives you something to fine tune. And so it cuts down that time so much. And also often will give you ideas you may not have come up with
Right. Mhm.
in your own brain. It's
Mhm.
like having a whole group of people, it's
Mhm.
got the collective
Mhm.
intelligence of the internet on there
Mhm.
that you're able to tap right into,
Right.
and do a lot of
Mhm.
that initial grunt
Mhm.
work.
Right. Well, and again, it's, things like, how would this be phrased? What would someone call it? Because, we get caught in our own heads with our product and our service, and we're always going to say it this way. But it's like, no, that's not what somebody else is going to call it. And, and we see that all the time just with ads. I'll look at it and go, I have no idea what that means. Now, depending on what it is, clearly
Yeah.
I'm not that target market, but, and so sometimes it is that you need that sophisticated term or that industry jargon or whatever it is. But
Mhm.
yeah, we don't always stop to think, okay, people are buying this because it was the easiest thing on my way home to do, or the cheapest, and sometimes people are wanting the more expensive, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so yeah, and so that's where AI can really, as you said, help with that process.
Yeah, just custom. It can
Hmm.
at scale, it can customize
Hmm.
things in ways that humans can't.
Right.
And it's already been in use
Hmm.
for a long time in a lot of
Hmm.
the advertising platforms,
Hmm.
more behind the scenes. What we
Hmm.
see with ChatGPT and things
Hmm.
like that is people getting access to the language learning
Hmm.
models and starting
hmm
to actually see the output and kind
hmm
of realize, oh, this is how it works.
hmm
Well, not that we know how it works because nobody really
hmm
knows how it works, but they see the
Yeah,
output.
and that's why it's scary, is people are like, this is a little weird.
Yes,
Hmm.
even the people building it, are like,
Hmm.
I really don't know exactly how
Hmm.
it works. So that is probably
Hmm.
one of the more unique things of AI
Hmm.
versus most of the other things that
Hmm.
we've changed over time. So I
Hmm.
mean, when we came out with Steam engines, it's like, yeah, this is how it works step by
Hmm.
step. With
Yeah.
AI, like, well, here's the input, here's the output.
And
We're
poof,
not
it
entirely
worked
sure
or
what
it
happens in the middle.
didn't.
Yeah,
That's always the funny thing, is when you type something and you get something totally different. I'm like, no, that wasn't what. But then I realized, okay, it's because I didn't ask the right question.
right. Yes. And coming down to the
Hmm.
that prompts and
Hmm.
having that conversation with
Hmm.
it of, well, let me ask that differently
Hmm.
or let me push back on
Hmm.
that. And that's the really one of the fascinating
Hmm.
parts of it is that conversational experience. Because I
Hmm.
can say, hey, that's wrong. And then it's like,
Hmm.
oh, you're right. No, here's the right
Hmm.
answer. Whereas in the past, you
Hmm.
type something into Google, you're reading static information.
Hmm.
Either it is right or it's wrong,
Hmm.
but there's no relationship
Hmm.
with it. There's no, oh, tell me more about
hmm
that, or
hmm
where can I read about this
hmm
that, AI LLMs are
hmm
able to provide.
Right. And it is weird that it is a conversation. I have a friend who is, she is giving classes now on how to use this. And she said, treat it like a person.
Mm,
And I started getting totally, and this just was weird. I started getting totally different responses when I said things like please and thank you and good
yeah.
morning. Um, and like you said, you can go in and say, well, tell me more, and it will, which that is a little scary, right? It's like there's this little person that's now in my computer. Um, but it to me, that's fascinating. It's a little scary, but it is also fascinating. And like I said, I use it, like I'll write a paragraph that is, to sell a certain item, and
Mhm.
I think it's good, but I'll put it into Chat GPT, and all I will say is please rewrite this,
Yep.
and it goes and I'm like, ooh, I like that.
Yep.
And so it's just twisting things in a little bit different way. And so what it's done is it's made me get a little bit lazy, right? But at the same point, it still has to have that starting point. I mean,
Yep.
I have to have that initial paragraph to say rewrite it. and
Exactly.
and but if it's written so poorly that it doesn't know what to do, then you're lost also, because it's not that smart. Might it be at some point? Who knows? I mean, I am a big sci-fi fan, so I'm like, okay, we're gonna have Commander Data from Star Trek who's going to be doing some of this stuff for us, and
Mhm.
that to me would be very cool.
That would be pretty awesome. I'll just build a custom
Wouldn't that be fun?
custom chat GPT for that.
Mhm.
And I think a question I see very often in the marketing and advertising circles is is AI going to replace us? Are we going to
Mhm.
need agencies and
Right.
freelancers and whatnot moving forward? And what I always come back to is there are things that it's really good at and things
Hmm.
that it's not good
Hmm.
at. And you have to have
Right.
someone steering the ship,
Hmm.
like you mentioned.
Hmm.
It could do a great job of writing a description about a product,
Hmm.
but you need someone saying, why are we advertising
Hmm.
this product,
Right.
not this product or that
Hmm.
product, and having the why behind
Hmm.
things. Something we see often in the Google Ads
Hmm.
side of things is we use a lot of automated bidding strategies where
Hmm.
Google's making lots of
Hmm.
decisions and they're basing those decisions upon data that we send to it.
Hmm.
Like, hey, here's what's converting.
Hmm.
So if you start sending inaccurate data,
Hmm.
Google's really good at
Right.
exponentially
Hmm.
giving you bad results.
Hmm.
They can waste money
Hmm.
really, really well. And
Hmm.
so you've got to have those gatekeepers
Hmm.
saying, oh, wait, we're not tracking phone
Hmm.
calls for this client. So
Hmm.
Google doesn't know they're getting phone
Hmm.
calls. So they're not showing ads to drive
Hmm.
phone calls. And that's why phone calls are
Hmm.
down. And being able to, redirect the
Hmm.
system, reassess things. And that I think is going to be more and more the role of marketers is
Right.
not the nitty gritty. It is the strategic, the monitoring, the making sure things get connected properly and overseeing the results thereof.
Right. And I can't wait till, we can where it's, fully integrated into Google, and you go in and you say, I want to run an ad about this that reaches this, and, and it comes up with it. But again, it needs that human input first.
Yes.
And so, but yeah, isn't that going to be cool to be, and it's going to shorten the process, which is
Yeah.
good, because then that gives us time to do whatever else, whether it's fun, whether it's business, whether it's a combination, it gets done. I mentioned in your bio that, you like going out to the Texas countryside with your kids. It's going to be great if it cuts the time that you spend in half, and you have more time to spend with your kids. Or maybe it's that it cuts your time in half and you can work with 5 more clients, right?
Exactly.
That's where I see the benefits coming in. Not that it's going to take over the world.
Yep, I'm on the same page with you. Excited, optimistic, but again, like you said, also realizing the risks there as well.
Right,
So
right.
keeping it all balanced, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, oh my gosh, John, this has been so much fun. And, it's a great conversation, but I'm guessing we've got a lot of people that went, oh, this sounds very complicated and too hard. So tell us how they reach you and what are the services that you provide?
The good news is it's very easy to reach us because we just had a whole conversation about why it needs to be easy. So we try to
It better be easy, right?
try to follow our own advice on our website. So go to stubgroup.com is the easiest
Mhm.
place to find us. You'll see info about what we do, who we are. You'll see our phone number.
Mhm.
You'll see forms in there. Reach out, give us a call, give us a
Mhm.
message. We're happy to chat with you. And what we'll do generally is we call it a free consultation
Mhm.
where if you're currently running advertising,
Mhm.
we'll take a look at what you're doing
Right.
and just give you our thoughts.
Mhm.
Say, hey, here's the good, bad, and the ugly.
Mhm.
If we were doing things for you, here's how we would do it.
Mhm.
And you can either take that and run with it, or you can say, hey, I'll hire a stub group to do these things
Mhm.
for me. So we
Mhm.
do that a lot. And if you're not doing any advertising yet, we'll, kind of put a plan in place.
Mhm.
Say, hey, what are your numbers?
Mhm.
Does it make sense? Can we potentially be profitable
Mhm.
for you? If so, here's what that looks like. And just have a conversation and see
Mhm.
where things go from there.
I love it. And it does list, all the services that you do. You also have a good blog. And that's,
Mm.
I think, always a good place for people who are going, this is confusing to me. They can go in and they can read articles about it and figure out, okay, I need to be doing this. Or like you said, I mean, there are some people where they're going to go, nope, yep. And that's perfectly fine. As long as they're not leaving money on the table, then it's cool.
Absolutely.
Well, this has been just so much fun thinking about this. And like I said, I'm getting ready to dip my toe in and do some of this. And so it might be that I just need to dip my toe in your direction and say, okay, help me. Um,
Totally.
but yeah, it is something that is so fascinating. And I think we need to continue the discussion. So we'll have you on again because it is going to evolve and fairly quickly, with especially with AI and some things like that. So, we might need to do a follow-up with that. But until then, do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave everyone with?
If you are a business and you want to connect with customers, the one thing I would say is understand what their pain points are and how you can effectively answer those pain points through your advertising, through your marketing, through the offer that you're giving. And if you can solve those pain points and do that in a better way than your competitors, then no matter what type of advertising or marketing you use, you're going to be in a better place to get customers because you are solving their problems.
I love it. Well, I've been having such a fun and informative discussion with John Horn from Stub Group. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.